So this series, it's sprung out of Psalm 24, which is a wonderful passage we saw last week about who can ascend into the hill of the Lord, who will stand in his holy place. And he's looking on mankind and he's going, who's worthy? Who's worthy to ascend into God's mountain? I think people think very lightly of God. They go, oh yeah, I'm going to heaven when I die. Why do you think? Oh, I'm a pretty good person, keep the 10 Commandments. Well, you don't know who God is. You don't know how high his standards are. God is a perfectionist with such high standards beyond anything you could imagine. And if you think you're worthy on your own, you ain't even close. Look at, God appreciates if you try to live a good, clean life. He appreciates if you try to live by a good conscience. That's important. But he also wants to show you the reality that his ways are so much higher than our ways. His word is so much higher than our word. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so is his word and his ways so much higher than ours. So let's humble ourselves a little bit. Who shall ascend to the hill of the Lord? Who shall stand in his holy place? Who's going to be worthy to ascend? And the gates of heaven are going to swing wide open and the doors of heaven are going to burst open. What man's going to be worthy to walk into the presence of the Father and sit down at the right hand of his power? Do you know who it is? It's the King of Glory. That's what Psalm 24 says. There's only one. His name is the King of Glory. And they go, who is this King of Glory? He is the Lord strong and mighty. He is the Lord mighty in battle. This is the Lord himself, and yet he's a man. He's a man, and yet he's the Lord. And what kind of man is he? He's a warrior king. He's a mighty strong one. Look at Psalm 89. Psalm 89. It's a wonderful song. This was a psalm of Ethan, the Ezrahite. And he's saying, I'll sing of the mercies of the Lord forever. Amen. With my mouth, I'll make known thy faithfulness to all generations. He's just talking about how wonderful the Lord is and how the Lord chose David and chose his anointed. But then watch this. It's interesting in verse 6. He says, for who in the heaven can be compared unto the Lord? So he's not even looking at earth. Nobody on earth is even going to come close. He goes, who in the heaven can even be compared to the Lord? Who among the sons of the mighty can be likened unto the Lord? He's talking about angelic beings there. He's not talking about earthly beings. Verse 7, God is greatly to be feared in the assembly of the saints, and to be had in reverence of all them that are about him. O Lord God of hosts, who is a strong Lord like unto thee, or to thy faithfulness round about thee? Who? Who's like him? Who's strong like him? Who's mighty like him? Next verse talks about he rules the raging seas. Remember when Jesus was here? Peace, be still. They go, what manner of man is this? Even the wind and the seas obey him. Now, I know Bill Johnson thinks he's got that power, but he doesn't. I'd like to go out with him on a cruise one night on a big storm and see what happens. Anyways, no, Jesus Christ, the mighty one. So what we've been doing is we're doing what Jesus Christ did with his disciples. After he resurrected from the dead, what did Jesus Christ do? He took them through the scriptures. And he showed them all the things concerning himself. He began to open up the scriptures and show them where he was. Jesus in the Old Testament. And that's what we were doing last week. So last week we looked at he was the creator from the beginning. Not only did he create all things, but specifically he created man in his own image. And but then we also saw that man fell into sin. But he didn't just forget about man or just throw man. No, the voice of the Lord, he pursued after sinful man to try to draw him back. And then we also saw that the first prophecy that he's going to be the seed of the woman that would bruise the serpent's head. Amen? And that's what we saw last week. Okay, so this week, Let's go to Genesis chapter 11. Again, we're kind of scanning through the Bible here. Excuse me. So if you know anything about the history of mankind, after Adam and Eve fell into sin, excuse me, it was 1,656 years until God says, I'm done with man. I wish I hadn't created him. And he wipes them all off the face of the earth except for one man. He only found one righteous man left. And here's the thing about the true God. God will never destroy the righteous with the wicked. Never. God will never pour his wrath out upon his own children who are true to him. Never. Never. Always divide the line. Even if there's only one left, he'll find a way to save that man and his family, and he'll destroy everybody else. But he never doesn't just throw them all in the mix. Okay? God searches the hearts of every man and woman and child on planet Earth. He's searching the hearts. And so we know in Genesis 6, 7, and 8, God wiped this thing clean, and he started fresh with one righteous man and his family. Now, he had 3 sons, and it's amazing to think that all cultures, all religions, all nations, all trace back to that one family. Now look, I know we ultimately go back to Adam and Eve, but you don't even have to go back that far. We all go back to Noah and his wife and the 3 sons and 3 wives. Every single one of us comes from one of those 3 boys and their wives, or maybe a combination. You know, there's mutts, there's half-breeds, there's mixes, you know, so there's a lot of intermixing too. So you might be more than just one. But it's just interesting, you know, this I'm a mutt. Italian, Irish, German, Scottish, English, I got a lot in me. So, but anyways, so when we go back, though, this is post-flood. So the floods wiped everything clean, all started with Noah, and then only within a couple hundred years, mankind has already turned against God and is uniting in rebellion against God. And that's what we see in Genesis 11. So God's giving you, he's trying to show you where everything comes from. That's why Genesis is so wonderful. It's the book of beginnings. It's showing you where everything begins. In Genesis 11, verse 1, it says, and the whole earth was of one language and of one speech. And it came to pass as they journeyed from the east that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. And they said one to another, go to, let us make brick, and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone, and slime they had for mortar. And they said, go to, let us build us a city and a tower, whose top may reach unto heaven. And let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth. Now, it sounds good, right? I mean, man, unity, right? Rainbow nation, unity and diversity. Let's all come together. Let's all hold hands. Whatever we imagine, we can do it. Nobody can stop us. But the problem is, if you go back to chapter 9, chapter 9, verse 1, after God wiped off man off the face of the earth for their wickedness and their evil imaginations, 9 verse 1, and God blessed Noah and his sons and said unto them, be fruitful and multiply and what? Fill the earth, replenish the earth. He goes, I want you to spread out and fill this whole thing back up. But man goes, no, we don't want to spread out. We don't want to be scattered. We want to come into one, and we're going to build a city that nobody can, that even if God tries to flood us out, our city's going to be so strong. Even if he tries to bring a flood, we're going to have a tower that goes all the way up to heaven where he can't, and we're going to make us a name, and we're going to do it. And, science and technology, and we're going to bing, 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 et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. World Health Organization and all this stuff. Okay. By the way, I watched, a few years back, there was some kind of, I can't even remember what it was, but I was at a friend's house, and he's always got the TV on, And it's just always watching garbage. And I go, man, can I please change the channel? This is, you know. So I tried to find something worth watching, and I found it was C-SPAN. And, you know, it's like kind of like a government thing where people talk and councils, and they were having some big conference. There was some epidemic over here in Africa. I don't remember what it was.
Ebola.
Was it the Ebola? I think it was the Ebola. Yeah, I think it was. It was the Ebola, and this was when this thing was fresh, and they're all sitting around counseling, and well, we need to take these measures, and why don't we do this, and blah, blah, and what are we going to do as America, as the leaders of the world, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I never once heard them say anything about, I wonder if God brought this on us for our sin. Never once said, maybe we need to repent to God. Maybe, you know, what does God say about this Ebola? I never heard that. It's just, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to take these measures, we're going to make sure next time we're going to have better safety precautions in place. Okay, we'll see. We'll see. I think COVID hit and people have been shaken, and I'm not making light of COVID. I know people have died, but it's just, it's like a strong flu. This isn't like a horrible, I'm sorry, this is not like like if you're really sickly, it can get you. But if you're pretty healthy, I don't think it's going to do much to you for the most part. Most people are living in good health. It's not that powerful. And this is shaking the world. What if God really brings some serious pestilence on this earth? What are people going to do? So anyways, here we are back in Genesis 11. And and they got their plans, and we're going to do it. And verse 5, and the Lord came down to see the city and the tower which the children of men builded. And the Lord said, behold, the people is one, and they have all one language. And this they begin to do. And now nothing will be restrained from them which they have imagined to do. So remember, they said, go to, let us do this. So here's what God says, go to, let us go down. And there confound their language, that they may not understand one another's speech. And the Lord scattered them abroad from thence upon the face of all the earth, and they left off to build the city. Therefore is the name of it called Babel, because the Lord did there confound the language of all the earth. And from thence did the Lord scatter them abroad upon the face of all the earth. So when man unites, if man truly could become one, by the way, at this point, man truly was one. There was only one language. There was really only one nationality. They were all one. God says whatever they imagine, they'll do it. That's the kind of power God gave man. When God created man in his own image, he gave man some serious power. But if you're united against God in rebellion, you're not going to win. So even though if he left them alone, they could have done it, there's no way they're going to do it because God steps in. But again, you go, where am I seeing Jesus? Well, again, verse 7. Go to, let us go down. This is God speaking, but he's saying, let us go down. So where's Jesus here? He's here in Genesis 11. He's one of the ones, but I'm going to just say the one. There's Father and Son and maybe even Holy Ghost going down, who scattered the rebellious children of men at Babel. It's Jesus back there. He's going, they got power, but not as much as me. They say, we're not going to get scattered. You watch, I'm about to scatter you. Okay. Genesis 11, verses 1 and 9. This is Jesus right here. He's in there with the Father, scattering rebellious man. This is the first civilization post-flood. And notice, it's rebellion, it's pride, it's self-glory, seeking their own glory, will make a name. And it's sad. By the way, the last civilization before Jesus comes back, you know what it's going to be called? It's going to be called Babylon, the last civilization. It'll be just like Babel. In fact, I don't know if you've paid attention, but really this is why it helps to understand the whole picture of the Bible. Mankind is so desperately trying to get back to where they were at Babel. That's everything that you see in economics, in politics, in all these things, conspiracy, whatever. They're trying to get back there. They want to have one united government, one united currency, one united everything where they have complete control and they can do everything that they want. Now listen, if it didn't work when you actually were one people and there actually was one language, how delusional are you to think that when you have tons of nations with many languages that God divided and scattered, that you're going to be able to accomplish it? The Antichrist will be delusional. He'll think for a little while that he's really done it and he's united all, but in the end he's not even going to unite all. He's going to have wars. He's going to have to be fighting other people and other nations. Listen, when you look at the empires of the world as revealed in Daniel chapter 2, what was revealed in Nebuchadnezzar, there was a statue. The head was pure gold. That was Nebuchadnezzar's kingdom. He was one man who had absolute dominion. Pure gold. By the time you get down to the Antichrist kingdom, it's feet with toes of stone and clay kind of mixed. Listen, I'm not saying that it's not going to be a fierce kingdom. I'm not saying there's not going to be a lot of evil. They're going to be crushing, but it's not going to be this united kingdom that they're envisioning. Man is delusional. They'll never get there. Mark my words. Never. They'll think for a little while, we almost made it, and then guess who's going to come down and ruin it? The same one who came down and ruined it in the beginning. You go to Revelation, okay? You don't have to go there, but if you go to Revelation, I'm just going to say this. Jesus will destroy the final civilization, just like the first civilization. This was the first civilization. This was post-flood. And it was a civilization of pride and self-glory. Well, guess what? The last civilization is going to be the same. In fact, most civilizations in between have all been the same, okay? And just like that first one, Jesus will come and he'll destroy the final civilization, which it'll actually be a mixture of two things. It won't even be united. So it won't just be Babylon. It'll be Babylon and the Antichrist kingdom. There's Babylon the whore, and then there's the Antichrist kingdom, which is the beast. In fact, Jesus ain't even going to touch this. You're going, that's so filthy, I won't even touch it. He's going to use this to destroy this, and then Jesus himself will take this out. It's just interesting if you read it carefully. Okay, God is very orderly in how he deals with things and what he'll touch and what he won't touch. He's not going to touch this, but he'll touch this. He'll wipe this thing off the face of the earth. And he's going to come destroy the final civilization, and you can read that in Revelation 16 through 19. And there's many other scriptures in the Old Testament. But it's just interesting how here we are, beginning of Genesis, go to the end of Revelation, it all comes full circle. Same Jesus. Same one. Okay. All right, where's Jesus next? Where's Jesus next? Now, if you track through the rest of this chapter, God's going to begin focusing on one specific lineage. So Noah had 3 sons. Okay? So this is just for your own sake. I don't know how much you know about this stuff. So you have Noah. He had 3 sons. I think Japheth was the eldest. And then I think it was Shem and then Ham, but I'm not certain. I'm pretty sure that was the order. And so if you'll notice in Genesis, the firstborn almost never gets it. The firstborn is a reject. Okay? And there's a reason for that. That's because in your first birth, your flesh, it's a reject. You can't get it in your flesh. You need a second birth. You need a new birth. So God's showing all through Genesis, he rejects the first. So Japheth is not going to be the chosen one. It's going to be Shem. And then you go down about 10 generations, and then you reach a man named Abram. And this is going to be the key guy. And so when you get to Genesis 12, the Lord is going to appear to this man called Abram. There's something special about this man that God really loves about him. He sees this man's heart. There's something he really loves about this man's heart. And so let's just read chapter 12, verses 1 to 7. Jonathan, if you could just read that for us.
Now the Lord said unto Abram, Get thee out of thy country, and from thy kindred, and from thy father's house, unto a land that I will shew thee, and I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee, and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing, and I will bless them that bless thee, and curse them that curseth thee, and in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed. So Abram departed as the Lord had spoken unto him, and Lot went with him. And Abram was 75 years old when he departed out of Haran. And Abram took Sarai, his wife, and Lot, his brother's son, and all their substance that they had gathered, and the souls that they had gotten in Haran. And they went forth to go into the land of Canaan, and into the land of Canaan they came. And Abram passed through the land unto the place of Sichem, unto the plain of Moreh, a difficult name. And the Canaanite was then in the land, and the Lord appeared unto Abram and said, Unto thy seed will I give this land. And there builded he an altar unto the Lord, who appeared unto him.
Okay, so here God's going to start moving again, and he steps in with this man, Abram. And by the way, Abram was living in a society that was already idolatrous, all these idols, and worshiping these, the mighty ones, which they're just demonic forces, really, is what they're really worshiping. And they're real. The idol's not real. The idol's just something dead. But there are real demons. There are real devils. But why do you want to worship darkness if you could worship light? And God doesn't say to Abram, hey man, just, be a light there and don't know. He goes, look, you got to come out. I want to make a new nation, and you can't be mixed with the old. So he says, get out of your family's house. Get out of your country. Leave everything behind. Pack up and go. He doesn't tell him where he's going. Just go. But if you do, I'll bless you. I'll make your name great. And everybody who blesses you will be blessed. Anybody who tries to curse you, I'll curse him. It's like, I'm with you. And so Abram, come on, wife, let's go. Pack up, bam, boom, gone. And this man was a man of action. He was a man of faith. He was a man of action. He knew how to take authority. He knew how to get things done. And so he ups and leaves. And then something in verse 7 that we saw that was interesting. Once he leaves and he gets to Moreh, so now he's in Canaan. And then the Lord appeared unto him and said, unto thy seed will I give this land. And there he built an altar to the Lord. So now we start seeing this thing, and we're going to track it through the next few chapters. The seed of Abraham. Now we know God's going to change Abram's name to Abraham. Okay? The seed of Abraham. So the first time we see it is here in Genesis 12, verses 1 to 7. And so this is a promise. God makes a promise here. Genesis 12, verses 1 to 7, that this seed would inherit the land of Canaan. Would inherit the land of Canaan. And again, Abram is a man who left idolatry. He was called out of idolatry, called out of lies, left everything to follow the Lord. Now you go forward to chapter 13. And in chapter 13, there's a little bit of strife between Lot, it was his nephew, between Lot's herdsmen and Abraham's herdsmen. There's kind of, and Abram says, look, we're brothers. We shouldn't be fighting. We shouldn't if we're getting too big and we can't walk together, let's just go separate ways. And so Abraham says, you pick. You want to go to the right? I'll go to the left. You want to go to the left? I'll go to the right. You pick. And so Lot, he looks and, I like that area near Sodom and Gomorrah. That looks beautiful. And he judges based on his sight, and he goes after according to the eyes, where it's nice and pleasant, and, where his wife won't complain so much because they've been living in tents. So let me find a nice city where she'll be happy, and, you know how that goes. And she goes over, they go over there, and what does Abram do? Right after that, after they separate, verse 14, Genesis 13:14, and the Lord said unto Abram, after that Lot was separated from him, he says, lift up now thine eyes, and look from the place where thou art, northward and southward and eastward and westward. For all the land which thou seest, to thee will I give it, and to thy seed forever. So he confirms this promise. It's confirmed in Genesis 13, 14, and 15. This promise is confirmed again once Abram arrives. Okay? Promise is confirmed. And again, notice this is after separation. So this was the promise of the seed. This was after he obeyed and went out. This was an act of faith. He obeyed and went out, didn't know where he was going, Hebrews says. This promise is confirmed after he separates. Now actually he didn't separate because he wasn't the divisive one. Okay, this is important. We don't want to be divisive. It's important. We're not called to be divisive as children of God. Yes, the truth will divide, and sometimes we have to divide from people, but we're not to be divisive. And so just watch that. So he didn't separate. Technically, he just said we need to separate, and Lot chose the way, and then Abram. But this is after he separates from a carnal, worldly brother. Okay? Lot was carnal. His family was carnal. Sodom and Gomorrah, man. This is action, nightclubs, party scene. We like this stuff, And he goes, you have that. I'll live a simple life, live in tents. I don't need all that action. And so this is when the promise is confirmed. Go to chapter 15. This thing just keeps building. Chapter 15. So now chapter 15, this is after. So Lot, he went and hung out with the wrong crowd, and because of it, he gets carried off into captivity. By the way, you might be a man of faith. Lot actually was a man of faith. But if you hang out with the wrong crowd, you're going to get taken captive with them. It's important. You got to pick who you're going to hang out with. You're going to pick who's going to be your friends and who's not going to be your friends. You have to make that choice. I remember the first time I really started making that choice in my life. I was about 18 and a half. And I'd gone back to the government school for a year. And my next door neighbor, he was kind of a nerdy, kind of a loser guy. I was kind of friends with everybody in the neighborhood. So growing up, he was kind of the nerd, not really good at sports or anything. But I felt bad for him, So I was his friend. I was kind of like his only friend. And so when I went back to the government school, he was the only one I knew because the other kids, they were either younger or my other friends were at different schools, so he was the only one I knew. So I just kind of went in with his crowd. And he was in the pothead crowd, People just sit around and smoke pot and just make fun of everybody, but they don't do anything themselves because they're losers. They can't do anything, and they just want to make fun of everybody. And so I kind of hung out with those guys for about a year and a half. And I don't know, it took me a while to wake up, and then finally I was like, who are these losers? What am I doing? And so one day we were in my parents' house. They were out of town. We were watching some childish movie, Lord of the Rings or something. And, everybody's sitting around stoned. Oh, this is crazy, man. And something snapped in me, and I was like, all right, I'm done. I turned off the TV. I said, guys, get out. Let's just go. I kicked them out of I started cleaning the house. I'm done with this. I'm 18 and a half. I need to step up now. I can't sit around and be some loser. This is my life. I got to own this thing. I'm not going to sit around and waste my life with a bunch of losers who just want to smoke pot and watch stupid, silly movies, So, anyways, point is, you got to pick who you hang out with. Lot chose to hang out with the sodomite sinners, and he got carried off. Now, Abraham's a really merciful, gracious, loving man, and he goes and rescues his nephew. Amen? Look, I have brothers in Christ that are carnal, they're worldly. They're probably never going to live in victory in this life. It's too bad. I wish they would grow up and mature and they would separate from the world, but they probably won't. But I don't hate them. And if they're captive and I can help get them free, I'm going to go in there and try and help them, just like Abraham. But at the end of chapter 14, there were great spoils in this victory. Okay, they won a big battle. Abraham won a big battle against a bunch of kings. So you're talking about big money. And Abraham would not take any of the money for himself. Nothing. He took a tenth of it and he gave it to the priest, Melchizedek. He says, God gave me this victory, so I'm giving my first tenth, I'm giving it to him. And then the king of Sodom says, well, here, man, you guys saved us. Why don't you give me more? He goes, no, it's okay. I don't want your money. Because the king of Sodom was a filthy, vile, wicked man. He goes, I don't want your reward. You know what? What I will take is I'll just take a little bit to supply my men for what they just did with me in battle, and we'll give them food, but I'm not going to be made rich by some vile, filthy person. So this is leading up. Now chapter 15. So after Abraham denied the unrighteous wages, verse 15, after these things, the word of the Lord came unto Abram in a vision, saying, fear not, Abram, I am thy shield and thy exceeding great reward. He's going, you don't need the reward of this filthy, vile world. I'll be your reward. I got you. And you don't need the protection of all these kings who think there's something. I'm your shield. Amen? In verse 2, and Abram said, Lord God, what wilt thou give me, seeing I go childless, and the steward of my house is this Eliezer of Damascus? And Abram said, behold, to me thou hast given no seed. And lo, one born in my house is mine heir. Remember, there's all this promise about the seed. And Abram's going, man, where's the seed? That's all I want. I don't want their money anyways. I don't want Sodom. It's filth. I just want a seed. In verse 4, and behold, the word of the Lord came unto him, saying, this shall not be thine heir, but he that shall come forth out of thine own bowels shall be thine heir. And he brought him forth abroad. God brings him out, and he goes, look now toward heaven, and tell the stars. Tell means count them, if thou be able to number them. And he said unto him, so shall thy seed be. And he believed in the Lord, and he, that's God, counted it to him for righteousness. So the next time we see about this seed is 15, verses 4 to 6. And he says, your seed's going to be like the stars of heaven. It's going to be like the stars. Now, so I'm seeing two things. When I'm seeing stars, so seed, but now he says it's going to be like the stars. Two things about stars. Stars are not earthly, they're heavenly. Because your seed is going to be like stars. Heavenly. But also multiplication. There's going to be multiplication of this seed. There's going to be an innumerable company. Amen? I hope this gets you excited. Because you're getting in on this promise. Amen? Okay, go to 21. So again, it's just interesting how these words, these promises are coming after these fork in the road decisions that Abram's got to make. It's not like he's just hanging out, just living a cool life, and God's like, all right, buddy, here you go. Let me just confirm my word to you. No, he's making tough decisions. But then as soon as he makes those tough decisions, God's like, right there, man, I got you. Watch. Boom. Okay. Chapter 21. Verses 9 through 12. So then fast forward, we know what happened. Abraham, well actually rather, Sarah goes, I'm old, I can't have children, this thing's impossible, I got a plan. Why don't you take my handmaid, go in unto her, and she'll bear on my knees, and we'll get the seed that God promised. Right? Your plans to fulfill the will of God will never work. Never. Leave your plans at the door. In fact, put them in the garbage can. In fact, throw some gas in there and throw a match in there and just torch it. Your plans will never accomplish the will of God. So Sarah takes the initiative like Eve did. And Abram follows in the footsteps of his father Adam. And instead of standing on, no, this doesn't sound right. Let's wait for God on this one. Let's get some counsel from the Lord. Abram, just like Adam, just goes, all right, hey, she's pretty good looking. Let's go for it. I'll do it. You know? I'm not going to argue with this one. Okay, but they're going to end up in a mess. And so they do end up in a mess. And they end up with a child of the flesh. He's an illegitimate child, and he's a wild man. He'll never get along with anybody. He'll never fit into family or society. By the way, that's a lot of times true of illegitimate children. It's sad, but there's a difference between children who are children of rightful birth and promise versus... That's not saying God isn't merciful. God was merciful to Ishmael. He still multiplied Ishmael. He didn't destroy him, but he could never fit in the family. He just couldn't. And so then once the promised seed actually came, Isaac, that promised child actually came, they couldn't get along. And the one despised the other, of course, because he envied him. And it's sad. And then, of course, you know the issue with the mistress and all this stuff. And so anyways, verse 9. By the way, it's interesting. Sarah was the one with the idea. This was her great plan. And Abram followed. So she's leading. He follows her. They both end up in sin. Now watch. Here's what's interesting. If you, women, if you lead your husbands into a wrong path, and I'm sure you all have done it at some point, he's probably not going to figure out the solution on how to get out. Because you're the one who let in there. So you're going to be the one God's going to show the solution to get out, and you're going to have to lead him out because you let him in. It's just interesting. So verse 9, Sarah saw the son of Hagar the Egyptian, which she had borne unto Abraham, mocking. Verse 10, wherefore she said unto Abraham, cast out this bondwoman and her son, for the son of this bondwoman shall not be heir with my son, even with Isaac. And the thing was very grievous in Abraham's sight because of his son. Look, Ishmael was his son. He loved him. He didn't desire harm against him. I got to cast them out of my house. But she was right. God gave her the wisdom on that because she was the one who had the foolishness. And so she had to have repentance toward God so God could give her the wisdom so they could get their family back in order. But it's not because she was more spiritual. It's just because she made the mistake. So anyways, that's a different, I won't go there. Verse 12, and God said unto Abraham, let it not be grievous in thy sight because of the lad and because of thy bondwoman. And all that Sarah hath said unto thee, hearken unto her voice. For in Isaac shall thy seed be called. Not in Ishmael, in Isaac. Now he says later, I'll make a nation of the son of the bondwoman. You know, he's your seed. But he's not the real seed. Your seed's going to be in Isaac. In Isaac shall thy seed be called. So this is key. You say, why is this key? Well, it's key for a lot of reasons. And so you have Ishmael rejected and cast out. By the way, he's a wild man. Hates everybody, and nobody really likes him. And then you got Isaac. The seed will be in Isaac. Isaac was a proper child. He was he was a child of peace. Now this has many implications, but let me give you the most simple historical one. The Muslim religion came from a man named Muhammad in 600 AD, 600 years after Jesus. This is where the Muslim religion started. And he was from this descendancy. He was of the seed of Ishmael, okay, from Saudi Arabia. And he was a wild man. And he hated pretty much every religion and everything that was in that city, but he wasn't strong enough to take it over. So he went out into the wilderness and he built up a big band, and once he had enough, and again, at first he preached peace, peace, I'm a man of peace. But once he got a big enough army, there was no peace when he came back. When he came back, he slaughtered the city and said, Allah's the true God, and he's the God. And they started conquering. They started bands, and they would go and conquer and either convert to Allah or die. It's a wild man. Hands against every man, and every man's hand against him. By the way, in the Quran, the Muslims say he's the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Ishmael. No, he's not. You never see that in the Bible. Why? Because they're of the wild seed. That's where the Muslim religion comes from. No peace. They have no peace. They might promise peace at first if they don't have enough numbers to take over your country. But once they got enough numbers to take over, there ain't going to be much peace. The only peace you'll have is if you bow to them. Otherwise, you ain't going to have peace. And I don't say that because I hate Muslims. I don't hate Muslims. I'm just saying it was all prophesied back here. Isaac, though, this is where Israel's going to ultimately come through. And it's just important to know the seed is in Isaac. It's not in Ishmael. When you read in the Bible, he's the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, not the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Ishmael. That's a twisted lie. The seed's going to be in Isaac. Isaac, the child of peace. Isaac, the miracle child of God. Amen? Not a child of the flesh. This is a child of the flesh. Go sleep with my handmaid. All right, let's do it. Where does that lead? This is the promise. This is the miracle child of God. This is where the promise seed's in. Amen? Okay, last one. Oh yeah, Ishmael came first, by the way. Isaac came late in time. Isaac came late in time. Just like Jesus. And there's many implications of this. The Old Testament law came first, but the New Testament grace came in Christ came late in time. But it was actually right on time, but it was later, just like Isaac. Okay, last one, chapter 22. Chapter 22. Okay, what's the point of all this? Seed. I didn't write it, but seed, like the stars. Seed. It's going to get everything. Seed. 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 Seed of Abraham. What's this seed? Who is the seed? Is it Isaac? Well, not exactly. Genesis 22. This is after God told Abraham to take his only begotten son and offer him up to God as a burnt sacrifice. Another tough decision. But Abram, man of faith, man of action, gets up early in the morning, just goes for it. Got to obey God. Trust God. God will make a way. And we know the story. He's getting ready. And the angel of the Lord appears. Don't touch him. Now I know you fear God. Don't lay your hand upon him. And Abraham lifts up his eyes and he sees there's a ram caught in the thicket. There's a substitution for his son. And Abraham goes, takes the ram, offers him for a burnt offering in the stead of his son. Verse 14, and Abraham called the name of that place Jehovah-Jireh. As it is said to this day, in the mount of the Lord it shall be seen. Jehovah-Jireh, the mount of the Lord, it shall be seen. What? What did Abraham see that day? Well, he saw many things. He saw many things. He saw the only begotten son who had to be sacrificed. He saw the substitution for mankind. He saw many things that day. But now watch this, verse 15. And the angel of the Lord called unto Abraham out of heaven the second time and said, by myself have I sworn, saith the Lord. For because thou hast done this thing and hast not withheld thy son, thine only son, that in blessing I will bless thee, and in multiplying I will multiply thy seed as the stars of the heaven, and as the sand which is upon the seashore. So up to this point, most of the time when you're seeing seed, it looks like many seed, stars, dust, sand. But watch what he says after this. And thy seed shall possess the gate of what? his enemies. So this seed that he's been talking about looks like, and yes, there's going to be multiplication, but right here, God says, one seed. Thy seed shall possess the gate of his enemies. And then in verse 18, and in thy seed, the him, whoever this him is, shall all the nations of the earth be blessed, because thou hast obeyed my voice. Amen? Come on now. Is this good or what? I love this stuff. Come on, the Word of God is wonderful. What do we see here? 22 verses 15 through 18. We see the seed equals a him. It equals a him. And this seed will possess the gate. Is it gate or gates? What is it? Gate of his enemies. And this seed in him, and this seed, and this is one of the greatest promises, all nations of the earth shall be blessed. Now again, let's just notice something, okay? I want you to notice something. Who is this King of glory? He's a warrior king, strong and mighty, mighty in battle. Who's this seed of the woman? He's going to bruise the serpent's head, the one that deceived the woman and led the man into sin. He's a warrior king. So when he confirms to Abram, you're going to have a seed. I'm going to give him this whole land. In fact, you look as far north, as far south, the whole thing is going to belong to your seed. In Isaiah 8, verse 8, you can just write it down. Isaiah 8, verse 8. You know what the land of Canaan is called in Isaiah 8, verse 8? It's called Emmanuel's land. Emmanuel, God with us. It's Emmanuel's land. It's the land of the man who is the God-man, God with us. That belongs to him, that land. And your seed's going to be like the stars of heaven. Heavenly multiplication. It's not going to be Ishmael, not going to be the wild man, not the child of the flesh. It's going to be Isaac, the child of promise, the child of peace, the miraculous. It's going to be something miraculous. And guess what? Your seed is going to possess the gate of his enemies. Who is this King of glory? He's the Lord, strong and mighty, mighty in battle. This is a warrior king who's going to go right into the enemy's territory and break open the gate and go, I own this thing now. Take the keys. Amen? That's who he's going to be. And because of that, now I want you to understand something. A lot of times you've just been preached the personal Savior, Jesus. You know, you got a rough life and feel bad, and here comes Jesus. He's going to make you feel good. He's going to take you to heaven. Listen, I want you to understand, he can't be a Savior if he isn't the Lord. He can't be a Savior if he isn't the conquering King. The reason why he can save you, the reason why in him all nations of the earth shall be blessed, is because he's the one who possessed the gate of his enemies. If he didn't conquer the evil empire that was oppressing and crushing all the nations of the world, then the nations could never be blessed. The only way all nations can be blessed in him is because he's the mighty warrior king, strong and mighty, mighty in battle, and he took over the gate of his enemies. Amen? That's Jesus Christ. Let's look at some scriptures and then we'll wrap it up. Matthew 16. Matthew 16. The only reason why he can save you is because he conquered the enemy. If he didn't conquer the enemy, he's helpless to help you. He's like everybody else. Matthew 16. We know this passage. This is when Jesus is asking his disciples, who do men say I am? And they go, well, some say you're John the Baptist, some say you're Elijah, some say you're Jeremiah, one of the prophets. So you're a mighty man of God. He goes, but who do you say I am? He isn't just a mighty man of God. Who do you say I am? And Peter, I love Peter, okay? Now we know Peter, he's rash, he's impetuous, he puts his foot in his mouth sometimes. But he's also not scared of what people think, and sometimes he gets it right. And when everybody else is like looking around, what should we say? Peter just goes, you're the Christ. You're the Son of the living God. And you know what Jesus says? Blessed art thou, Simon Bar-Jonah. For flesh and blood hath not revealed it unto thee. We're in verse 17. Flesh and blood hath not revealed it unto thee, but my Father which is in heaven. And I say also unto thee that thou art Peter. And upon this rock, not Peter, upon this rock, upon what you just came to realize who I am. I'm the Christ, the Son of the living God. Upon this rock, I'll build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. Amen. The warrior king. He's going, Peter, you got it. And I'm building the church. Because remember, seed, it's singular, yes. But it's going to multiply. I'm building the church. And the gates of hell ain't going to prevail against this church. Amen? This is Jesus. This is Jesus. Go to Revelation 1. Watch this. I love this. Revelation 1. This is Jesus after he resurrected from the dead. He's ascended up to the right hand of the Father. He comes to appear to John the Apostle on the Isle of Patmos. And when he appears to John, he isn't some cool hippie. He doesn't have long, flowing, beautiful brown hair and big blue eyes or dark black, all these visions. People, I saw Jesus and it was just, man, I just cuddled up with him and I just felt so comfortable with him. I don't think so. I think you're deceived. I think you're vainly puffed up by your fleshly mind, which is what Paul said, most of these people with their visions. You know what? When John saw the real Jesus, the ascended, resurrected, almighty Jesus appeared to him, he fell at his feet as dead. And he didn't appear as some cool hippie who was like, hey, man, come on, let's go hang out. I just want to love you. I'm just here to love you. No. He sees a warrior king. Out of his mouth, a sharp two-edged sword. His eyes are burning like a flame of fire. His feet are like fine brass. Just the very presence of him. He just fell at it. And John's one of the holiest men on the face of the earth at this time. Probably the holiest man on the face of the earth at this time was John the Apostle. And he falls like nothing with no power in the presence of the real Jesus Christ. Amen? But thankfully, even though he's a warrior king, he's also a gentle Savior. Amen? He's a compassionate Lord. And so look at what he does in verse 17. After I fell at his feet as dead, he laid his right hand upon me, saying unto me, fear not. He didn't go, fear not. I love you, John. You're my boy. Fear not, John. You're my man. I'm there for you. I got you. I love you. I can't believe you stuck with it. I'm so proud of you, John. No. Fear not. I am the first and the last. Man, Jesus is very egocentric, eh? I like that about Jesus. He's not a feminine modern man who's afraid to stand up to, even his own wife or something. No, he goes, puts his hand on it and goes, fear not. I'm first and last. Brings him right back to himself. Not fear not, I love you, you're my boy. No, fear not, I'm the first and the last. Verse 18, I am he that liveth and was dead, and behold, I'm alive forevermore, amen. And I have the keys of hell and of death. He possessed the gate of his enemies. He took the keys back. Amen? He goes, dude, the gates of hell and death won't prevail against my church. I got the keys. This is the warrior king. You know who this warrior king is? It's the seed of Abraham. The one that God promised to Abraham over and over, promised and confirmed the promise and swore an oath. Over and over. What's all this stuff about? This is the seed of Abraham. We won't go there now. We'll go next week when we get there. And in this seed shall all nations of the earth be blessed. So this was Matthew 16. I think it was 16 to 18. And this was Revelation 1. Verse 18, notice 18 is a key number here, I guess. Just keep your eyes open for key numbers. You're going to see this stuff. And guess what? In Matthew 28, verse 18, go to Matthew 28. Two more scriptures, then we're done. Matthew 28, verse 18. I forgot to set my timer, so sorry, guys. Next time I'll set my timer. Matthew 28, 18. After Jesus resurrected from the dead, Jesus came and spake unto them, saying, all power is given unto me in heaven and in earth. Why? Because he possessed the gate of his enemies, just like God promised Abraham his seed would. He went into enemy territory. He took charge. He took control. He conquered him. He bruised the serpent's head. And he's going, I got all power. I got all power. So what are we going to do with that power? After he possesses the gate of his enemies, in him, what? All nations. So he goes, I got all power. Go teach all nations. Go tell them about me. Go teach them what I have commanded. I'm Lord. And they better obey what I've commanded, because I have absolute authority and power. Amen? That's Jesus, the warrior king who conquered. Jesus didn't say, if I'm not with you, well then, you're going to be lonely and you're going to miss out. He never said that. Jesus said, if you're not with me, you're against me. You understand? He's the focal point, not you. It's time for us to get over ourselves. It's not about you. It's not about me. Now look, in him, he's going to do great things through us, but let's get the focal point right. He goes, if you're not with me, you're against me. Fear not, I am the first and the last. Okay? And he's got all power, so he goes, you go better tell all nations. Tell them about what? Tell them about me. Tell them what I commanded, and they better learn to obey me, because I'm Lord. It's the seed of Abraham. All nations will be blessed. But the blessing will only come through obedience and faith, just like Abraham. How was Abraham blessed? In faith and obedience. How are the nations going to? Faith and obedience, same as Abraham. Last scripture, and then we're done. Revelation 7. I don't know, I just love Jesus. I love the real Jesus. I can't do the feminine thing. I just can't. I never could. Even when I was a teenager, and when teenagers, you're weak, and you can be a little slimy and stuff. Even as a teenager, they'd bring me to the mega churches where the youth pastors had the long hair and the pierced ears, and yo man, she just loves you, and just singing to his girlfriend or something, and I'm like I'm trying to get into the spirit, they tell me it's the spirit, and I'm trying, I'm like, what's wrong with me? Everybody else is crying, and it's not doing anything for me. It's doing nothing for me. Is there something wrong with me? No, it's because God didn't make me to be a woman. Made me to be a man. And you know who men follow? Real men? They follow a warrior king, the King of glory, the one who commands them to attention and shows them how mighty and powerful he is. Says, you follow me, you got victory with me. Amen? Revelation 7. In Revelation 7, we see 144,000 sealed of the tribes of Israel. And we're getting ready for tribulation time. 144,000 sealed. And we know Israel's the first fruits. Israel's God's firstborn nation. So he looks at Israel first. But what about the rest of the nations? Well, look at verse 9. By the way, I love this passage. You guys know Jehovah's Witnesses? Yeah. And they say there's only going to be 144,000 in the upper kingdom in heaven or something. I don't know. They make up all this weird stuff. And even though there's way more than 144,000 Jehovah's Witnesses on the earth, but they think they're part of the 144,000 something, and they go, that's it. See, look, and they show you this passage, and then they stop at verse 8. And I'm like, yeah, why don't you read the next verse, buddy? This is why, can I say one thing? Don't just study the Bible. Studying the Bible is one of the most dangerous things you can do if you just study the Bible. You need to read the whole Bible, start to finish. Read it all. Because look, if I just show you little parts here and there, I can deceive you and trick you. That's what all these cults do. Let's do Bible study. Come on, we're going to study the Bible. No, read the whole thing, okay? They just kept reading. They've never read it because they don't read their Bibles. They're not allowed to read their Bibles. They're only allowed to study what their what are those guys?
Watchtower.
Yeah, the Watchtower, whatever those, their They're elders. No, that's Mormon, but I don't remember what they're called. Whatever those guys are, whatever they say you can study, those are the only ones they're allowed to read. But if you just read the next verse, verse 9, after this I beheld, and lo, a great multitude, which no man could number, of all nations and kindreds and people and tongues, stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes and palms in their hands, and cried with a loud voice, saying, Salvation to our God, which sitteth upon the throne, and unto the Lamb. And all the angels stood round about the throne and about the elders and the four beasts, and fell before the throne on their faces and worshiped God. You know, when they worshiped God, they were just like, you know, bam, on their face. Just like John the Apostle, bam, on their face. Man, if you get a real encounter with the real presence of God, you'll be on your face. Flat on. You're not going to be standing and just like, you know, Michael Jacksoning it up. No. By the way, Michael Jackson was a Jehovah's Witness. I forgot. But anyways, I didn't mean that was no intended connection. But but look at this. I look, so 144,000 sealed Israel, but what about the rest of the nations? Because Israel thought, we're from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The promise is just for us. No, God told Abraham, in your seed, all nations of the earth will be blessed. All nations of the earth will be blessed. And here we see, in heaven, a great multitude of all nations and tongues and kindreds worshiping the Lamb, worshiping the Father, falling before his throne. And you can read the rest of the passage. It's beautiful, but we won't right now. I'll just read one last scripture. You don't have to turn there. But Paul saw this. When I'm teaching, I'm not making this stuff up. Paul saw this stuff long before I ever saw it. And here's what Paul said in Galatians chapter 3, verse 16. That's a good 3, verse 16, too. There are a lot of good 3:16s in the Bible. Most people know John 3:16, but this is another good 3:16. Galatians 3:16, and here's what Paul said. Now to Abraham and his seed were the promises made. And then he says, he saith not, and to seeds as of many, but as of one, to thy seed, which is Christ. The seed equals Christ. Christ. Who is this King of glory? It's the Christ. It's the Messiah. It's the Son of the living God. And guess what? He's come, and his name is Jesus. Amen? Amen. 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 Let's pray. Let's pray. Father, thank you so much for your grace. Thank you for your kingdom and your glory and your honor and your power and your majesty. Lord, you're worthy and you're holy. Father, thank you that you raised up a mighty one, the one who is of you, been with you since before the beginning, shared in your glory. And he was willing to humble himself and come down here and become the seed of Abraham. He didn't take on him the nature of angels. He took on him the seed of Abraham and was made flesh and blood to possess the gate of his enemies, so that in him all nations will be blessed. Father, thank you. Thank you for calling us into this glorious, glorious kingdom and this glorious gospel. Thank you for showing us who Jesus is, so we can love him and trust him and obey him. Bless your people. Bless your people. Bless your people. In Jesus' name, amen.